Okay, well, welcome everybody. It's great to see some familiar faces and some new names as well here. So today I just want to, my name's Toby Story. I'm the Managing Director of Southern Sea Ventures, and I have the good fortune of being able to go on a lot of these trips. And I like talking about adventuring, particularly in the polar region. So it's a real pleasure to be here. Today I'm just going to talk a bit about our Antarctic voyage that we have coming up this year for Christmas, and I'll talk a little bit generally as well about what we offer on our polar trips, and some of the highlights in my mind of Antarctica and Antarctic travel. Also, just at the end, I've got some information, a little bit of information, a kind of pre-release on what we're planning for 2025 as well. We've got some great guests here as well. Robbie from Living Ocean. Say hello, and Ian, who's one of the lecturers on board, will be joining us as well throughout the presentation. So the trip that we're running this year is aboard the Polar Pioneer to Antarctica from the 20th of December to the 1st of January. And I think it's a pretty exciting voyage because not only are we doing a lot of our general activities that we have on board, but we've also got a citizen science program on board and partnership with Living Ocean, which I'm actually really excited about that side of it as well. So, but just before I go on about that, just a little bit of background. If you are not familiar with Southern Sea Ventures, the company was started back in 1988 with a focus on sea kayaking trips. Had one trip in Fiji and in the Osawa Island group. And then in the early 90s, Al Baker, the then owner and my boss for many years, started running sea kayaking trips in Antarctica. It was actually the first company to start running sea kayaking in Antarctica. So something that we've been pretty involved with on small vessels for a really long time, and a lot of that on board this ship, the Polar Pioneer. In March 2020, Al decided to retire and I took over the company. So that was a great time to take on an international travel business. But it's nice 3 years later to be back in the swing of things and being able to travel back to the places we love to explore. So we've branched out from where we started off with a single trip in the Osawas doing kayaking to having around about 30 different trips on offer around the world, and also doing a lot more than just kayaking with our polar trips. So hiking, skiing, photography, cruising, and just a very well-rounded experience on board. Okay, so just the trip itself, as I said it before, 20th of December to the 1st of January, so Christmas in Antarctica. We've got a 13-day trip, including your meeting day in Ushuaia, and the trip will be focused along the western side of the Antarctic Peninsula, and I'll get into a bit more detail about that just maybe now. So Ushuaia, I'm sure many of you will be familiar with the Antarctic travel and where to go and that sort of thing. But the Antarctic Peninsula is the most commonly accessed part of Antarctica, and that's because it's easy to access, or relatively easy to access, from southern South America, from Argentina typically, and it is one of the most spectacular parts as well. The mountains, the wildlife. And the western side is particularly classic Antarctica with fabulous mountains and ice. And so that's where we'll be focusing our activities for this trip, aiming to head approximately as far south as just to the south of the Lemaire Channel, which is one of my personal favourite areas. So the ship itself, the Polar Pioneer, it's the only 50-passenger vessel working in Antarctica. And it is, with the exception of the small yachts, it's the only way to experience Antarctica in such a small group. So we have, of course, we have 50 passengers on board, but once we break those down into the groups of kayakers and skiers and photographers, you might end up with only 10 or so people at a landing site, and that is quite a unique experience. The ship itself has, it's very sturdy, it's ice strengthened, it's built for the ice. I took a bunch of these photos, so I was standing on the bow as we cracked through the sea ice, and we're very comfortable with her capabilities. She travels at around about theoretical maximum of 12 knots, but I was recently in Greenland, often traveling at around 13.5, which is very similar to what the modern vessels are doing. And of course, once we get down to Antarctica, all the vessels are traveling at 10 or below knots, primarily because of the risk of whale collision. So that's a standard for all the vessels. She's got two engines, which of course makes her very strong and able to push through the ice. So she's got great capabilities as a small, sturdy vessel. It was originally built back in the 80s in Soviet Union, and so traveling the world as a research vessel. So I like to say that it's an ex-Russian spy ship that was then acquired by a wealthy businessman, so the Russian mafia, and then has been in polar exploration since the early 90s. So she's got a great history, and yeah, very tried and true. The interior's had a bit of a renovation, so we've a lovely bar area, new sauna, new lecture theatre, and of course we've got an open bridge policy, so there's always opportunity to be out on the bridge watching the expedition occur as things happen. The rooms themselves are very comfortable. They're well kept. They're not luxury by any means, but they're definitely very comfortable rooms. So we like to sort of say it's a 4-star ship with a 5-star experience. And of course, our focus is always about what's outside as much as what's inside. So just as a sort of general overview of what you might expect, typically we'll be aiming for a minimum of two outings per day. We'll have breakfast, and we'll be typically straight into an outing, back for lunch, and then we'd have another outing in the afternoon. If the weather demands or the enthusiasm dictates, we may do outings before breakfast or after dinner, but if the weather's suitable, we're typically looking at a minimum of 2 outings per day. And then we've got a range of activities, which I'll just go into a little bit more detail on the next slide. So in addition, we have a skiing program on board for a small group of up to 6, which is effectively a ski mountaineering program, searching out the best ski opportunities on any given day. We have our classic kayak program, which is where we started, and that's where I've often been heavily involved, running the kayaking program. It's not all about kayaking, but yeah, kayaking is pretty good. So we typically run 2 groups up to around about 20 paddlers. We've got a photographic program as well. We've brought on a specialist photographer who runs a program beginning with helping you prepare for the photographic experience, providing tuition on board, and following up as well after the trip itself. Of course, cruising from place to place is a part of the program. And the ship itself, because you've got access to the front where you can just hang over the front of the bow and watch the ice underneath the vessel, or head up to the fly bridge or up onto which is the very top of the vessel where it's open. You've got great opportunities for wildlife viewing basically all around the ship, and if it's wild and woolly, you can always go into the bridge, which is warm, has windows, and so there's a lot going on even when there's nothing happening. So moving from place to place. And then of course general landings, zodiac cruising, and lectures. We have a wide range of lecturers on board and specialists in birds and whales and geology. And of course, Ian, who might want to jump in a bit later. Oh, there's Ian, who's a climatologist. And I won't tell everyone how many decades you've been working down there, Ian, but I'll let you do that maybe later. So I guess I've got a slide here entitled Flora and Fauna. Now, flora is very, very small. There is flora, so there are plants, basically lichens, mosses, and liverworts, so incredibly small things. It's a very harsh environment, on the land, but of course the sea is absolutely rich and abundant, and it's probably one of the most amazing wildlife places I've ever visited, and just the sheer volume of wildlife and how comfortable it is with our presence is one of the real highlights. It's almost possible to get sick of penguins. There are that many penguins. Of course, for us, we'll be particularly looking out for whales, but we've always have some incidental encounters with leopard seals and other seals and sea life. And then on the Drake Passage crossing that we will do, I actually find that is one of the best places for spotting seabirds. So I won't go into any detail on the wildlife. We've got experts on board for that, but it just, in terms of, for me, just the opportunity to interact with it at such close quarters is what makes the experience so special. And ice. Ice is Antarctica. Antarctica is ice, and it tells a lot of stories, but it's also just visually quite stunning, and the diversity in the ice is really what makes it such a special experience. This time of year, we'll still have some fast ice around and a bit of pack ice in the areas that we're visiting, or I'm anticipating we will. It's difficult to say from year to year. But of course, there is, of course, the possibility and the hope that we'll be able to sort of get out and land on the ice or explore on the ice. And these photos here are just some typical archetypal Western Peninsula landscapes: giant mountains, thousands of meters out of the sea, directly out of the sea, glacier faces falling straight into the sea. And again, it's probably the overwhelming nature of the place that I find so magical, and such a sort of, it's what I find is because there's basically no darkness. There may be a little bit of a dimming of the sky, and space, so time is quite twisted. You can't really tell if it's midday or midnight, and because of the light, because of such high altitude, space is it's distorted, and it's really difficult to tell how far away things are or how close something is. And then, of course, the grandeur of the place, the scale. So it feels incredibly otherworldly, and I feel like it's that distortion of both space and time that makes it like that. For this particular trip, we're partnering with Living Ocean, and Robbie's here from Living Ocean, and this will be the founding journey for them. And they're developing a citizen science program that's available for all to participate in. And I should probably let Robbie talk a bit more about that. Maybe just at the end, Robbie will go into some detail if people have some questions, rather than me speaking for you. The other sort of big experience, I think, that is often overlooked in Antarctica is the human history, both the industrial side of things as well as the scientific history and the history of early exploration. And you can see the relics of that in a lot of the places that we'll travel. And so, who's the trip suitable for? We have people as young as 8 from time to time, and as old as 80, and everywhere in between. The focus is really about being outside, engaging with the place, learning about the place, and appreciating the place that we are. And the ship that we've chosen is small enough that we really do get to maximize that time outside. We're nimble. We're able to, if we see a great opportunity, we're able to just drop the Zodiacs and kayaks and head off. So the main, and of course we've got different activity types of programs to suit everybody. So from the highly adventurous sort of ski mountaineering to general cruising and shore landings, we can really accommodate a really wide range of fitness levels. So it's really about being active and adventurous of spirit as much as anything. So I'll just quickly finish off here with these last couple of slides, and then I might just go into some questions and open up the floor as well for Ian and Robbie if those guys want to jump in on anything. But yeah, of course, we've got our other trips running this next year as well, 2024. We've got Svalbard, Greenland, and of course, a crossing trip from Svalbard across to Greenland. If you want more information about those trips, we'll be running sessions on specifically about those voyages and destinations later. So just stay in touch. And then what have we got? Yes, I have a sneak preview. So 2025, we're planning a slightly longer trip, which will be early January, 9 through 22 Jan, heading into the Weddell Sea and the western side of the peninsula. And this gives you a great opportunity to see both east and west. The eastern side is, there's an image here, which I hope you can see the cursor, just the polar desert, the beach with the ice on it, that is over in the Weddell Sea. And it's a very open, sparse, but incredibly beautiful place, and very much a contrast to the western side with the giant mountains dropping directly into the sea. And then we go around the northern tip of the peninsula, where we've often encountered a lot of large tabular icebergs. So again, just another scale, another level in the grandeur of what's on offer on the peninsula. And we did promise a special offer as well for this trip. for this Christmas trip, we're aware that the flight prices have been a barrier for some people, so we're offering a credit for anyone who's booking on the Christmas trip this year of up to $2,000 US in flight credit, in addition to our 10% discount. So I might just flick back here, but I'll just maybe I'll just open up the floor. Robbie, is there anything you wanted to, or Ian, is there anything you guys wanted to add in about the either the Living Ocean program or just any comments? Oh,
yeah, Toby, I can say a few things if you like.
Yeah, please do. Good to see you, Ian. How are you?
Swimmingly. Hi all. Look, my name's Ian Goodwin. I'm a glaciologist, climatologist, and oceanographer. I've been working as a research scientist in Antarctica for over 40 years, and working with Toby on this trip to be a guide, but also put together a lecture series for the trip, which will cover everything from the oceanography, the climatology, the glaciology, the history. And we're putting together an itinerary to try and link many of the old sites of whaling activity. And that's why we're partnering with Robbie and Living Oceans, because we want to do some science around comparing the early whale observations at the height of whaling activities with the whale populations today. And this is really interesting stuff, because it's very much due to two things. One is the recovery of the whale stocks, but also how they're dealing with climate change. And of course, you've probably heard a lot in the media recently about the minimum in sea ice extent this year, and this particular area of West Antarctica has been ice-free for most of the last few months. So it's very interesting times to be traveling around the peninsula, and this is really out of the 40 years of working in Antarctica, this area of Antarctica is my favorite. Over to you, Robbie.
Yeah, okay. Everyone hear me? Yeah?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, well, I'd just like to say that Ian's done a lot of work with us on different things, but his lectures well, mind-blowing. They're just full of so much knowledge, so you can really look forward to that. So our thing here is yeah, whales. We specifically focused on whales. I mean, all of that historically came out of us supporting Sea Shepherd way back in the beginning. But Living Ocean is purely 100% now a citizen science group. And I've just been up to Hervey Bay for 2 weeks doing a survey up there, and we've never seen so many whales. And there's lots of people who also agree they've never seen so many whales. So it's one of those things. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? We're not too sure, but there's lots of opportunity that's opened up. We wrote a specific program up there just to focus on birds, dugongs, whatever we could, whales, mainly humpbacks, of course. And we're modifying that for the Antarctic trip. And we can introduce you to the program Behave, which is now going global on Android. And if you want to, you can have a look at it. It's on Android and also on iOS. It's called Behave. I can send a link to it somewhere else. I don't know, Toby might, I'll ping it somehow. It's called Behave, Behayve. And we'll also be doing with Jennifer Lavers, who is Adrift. She runs Adrift, which is doing extraordinary work on seabirds and the impact on plastics, which also the work there, that research on that can actually also help identify the issues with plastics on all marine sea life. So any data that we get is gold. I mean, data is one of the key things that helps everybody understand everything. So we're also part of the the Whales and Climate Group. That's with Olaf up in Griffith University. We work with them. There's a whole lot of different people that we work with, and basically everybody's trying to do the same thing, and that is to sort of have a look at the ocean, see what's happening to it, because as you know, the planet's in kind of deep doo-doo. So it's important to get data and observe as much as we can to help the ocean survive. Yeah, there you go.
It's really exciting to have Robbie on board, and there's a part of the voyage costs go back to Living Ocean to assist with and of course the passages there to assist with gathering the data. So it's really great just to be a part of that program and to have the opportunity to support it. So
yes, so just contact us through Living Ocean. Living Ocean, that's singular, that's not plural. Living Ocean, because it's only one ocean really, the whole planet. So even though it's divided, so livingocean.org.au, info@, and we can answer any questions that you might like to have about it. There might be a particular focus you're interested in, and we can help steer that way. The great thing about citizen science is it sort of empowers people. You feel like you're doing something really great because you are. And Ian's a font of all sorts of universal knowledge. I know a couple of tiny little things, but the whale trip that we just did up there, two weeks up in Hervey Bay, a small group of people, 8 people on a boat that seats 6. We had a hoot, and I think we'll do the same thing. I've never laughed so much, had so much fun, and been blown away by what was there. So same thing, I think that's what you'll get.
Fantastic. I'm just going to stop the share off of the screen, and it'll open up. Then we've got a bigger videos, pictures of ourselves, so we can all see each other. And I'd just like to open up the floor if there's any questions for any of us, or just want to say hello. You're most welcome.
So turn your mics on.
Yes, you'll just.
Hey, Robbie, you trying to psych yourself into Antarctica with that beanie, are you?
Yes, actually. Yeah. No, I found the beanie works really well when you're walking anywhere around a boatyard. People really think you're a serious mariner. So yeah.
I've just sorry sorry to interrupt you guys. I know it's important banter. I've got just a question here about flights. Yep, flights have been problematic. There are, in terms of cost mainly, but there are routes that are a bit cheaper. We are offering assistance with finding the good flights, and for anyone that needs it, but also just in terms of the general routes. So anyway, if you're thinking of coming and that's a barrier, please reach out. We will help you. The general flight pattern, if you're on the eastern seaboard, is to go to Santiago or Buenos Aires, and then you spend a night or two in Buenos Aires because it's fun, and then you'll fly down to Ushuaia, so a couple of separate flights. Yeah, so there is a pretty, and it's obviously it's a long flight, but it's a very direct route from Sydney or Melbourne to Buenos Aires. If you're in Perth, you might think, oh, maybe I'll go the other way, but it typically you'd fly across to the east and fly out from there. Yeah.
Hey, Toby, it might be worth mentioning flights. If you go a bit earlier, flights are actually quite a deal cheaper. I'm going over early in December, and it was I think a few $1,000s less in terms of cost within the return flight.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Yeah, if you're leaving even a week earlier, so you could save enough that you could also have a short holiday in Patagonia, for example. And luckily for you, the flight credit still applies, so you can probably use that for your holiday.
Yeah, Toby, it's Anthony here. Just a question. When it comes to different programs that you offer down there, can you do sort of photography and kayaking, or are you sort of linked into one, or can you swap across multiple ones? How does that work?
So you certainly can. We do generally recommend that you try to. We find that it's better to stick with one, and to maximise that experience. But certain programs would be compatible. So, doing kayaking and photography, for example, but you do have to then make decisions about which trip, which activity you join on a daily basis. So, but if you're okay with missing out on one from time to time, then we're okay with you, deciding which one to join on. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep. Any other questions?
Yeah, so just a little bit more about the 2025 one. How's that going to be different? It's a similar length of time, isn't it? It's obviously a little bit later, but you said the destination's going to be a bit different?
Yeah, so for this particular trip, the 20th of December one, we're looking to travel just the western side of the Antarctic Peninsula and head quite a ways south on the western side. For 2025, we've added a day, so it's just slightly longer, and we'll be able to go into the Weddell Sea. You don't get down to sort of, the emperor penguin colonies at the bottom of the Weddell Sea, etc., generally speaking, but to the top of the Weddell Sea, to get a different feel for that, the environment on that side, and then coming back around through the South Shetlands and onto sections of the Western Peninsula.
Okay.
Yeah. So they may or may not go as far south as we have planned on this particular voyage. Yeah.
So, Tony, what sort of photography are you interested in?
Anything that I can learn. always
Okay.
Happy to learn more. But yeah, anything from night photography to any stuff, really.
Okay.
Landscapes, wildlife, happy to learn anything.
Okay. Well, there's a good thing. One of the things that we're doing is we've just noticed now there's a site, an international site called Happy Whale. And what they've done traditionally is just match flukes from whales all around the world. It's been very, very successful. Anyway, now they've got a new algorithm where now they can actually identify marks on the dorsal or anything, you know, wounds, scratches, entanglement marks. So taking shots of it doesn't have to be a dramatic shot like a breach or anything like that, but the opportunity now is there to help identify whales specifically on a very new and exciting level. So
Yeah, and I've seen similar information with whale sharks photographing behind the dorsal fins and things as well. So yeah, it's great.
yeah,
Bring on citizens scientists.
yeah, that's right.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, in fact, using happy whale, 2 humpbacks have been photographed in and around where we're going, and also been rephotographed up in Baja, California, and also one made its way to Byron Bay and was photographed again. So it is pretty amazing, just using the fingerprint from the whale flukes.
So just say, is there any? Does anyone else have any specific questions?
How cold is it, Toby?
Very cold, Ian. But in saying that, I think the weather is what the weather will be, but it's really the wind that gets you. And I find that in the Antarctic Peninsula itself, often what we're dealing with is conditions that you might expect in the Australian snowfields, and that it's often that way. So in terms of, you know, preparing for the trip, that's the sort of dress code is I'm going to be going skiing, and I want to stay nice and warm.
How many beanies, Toby?
It's about well, for me, it's a 5 beanie trip always. You just never know, you know. So, so we do it. Just if anyone else is here who is already joining, we always do a pre-departure briefing as well. So we'll talk through all the clothing choices and options, and, you know, any housekeeping stuff that we need to around about sort of 2 or 3 weeks out from the trip, just to prepare everybody. Yeah. And then I will demonstrate the number of beanies.
Toby, how different is it? What are the differences between Svalbard and Antarctica?
Oh goodness, where would I start?
No, conditions. Yeah.
Oh, in terms of conditions,
Be
well,
prepared for.
it definitely does get a lot colder. It's we've got a much larger landmass, or it certainly can get a lot colder.
Yeah.
A much larger landmass right there, and when the winds come directly off the ice, it can get remarkably cold. Yeah, and it's not just that it's just got a latecomer here.
Yeah, but it's the banana belt where we're going, Toby.
It could be. I mean, should we work with some numbers? Ian, what's a good number for a temperature? We're probably looking at a lot of the time sitting around about, 2 to 8 degrees is probably not uncommon. And then if we've got wind chill factor on a cold day, we'd be looking at -5, -10.
Yeah, I think the only time you're going to feel the cold a little bit is sitting in a Zodiac when we're doing Zodiac cruising.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're moving around on land, you're more likely to be throwing clothes off rather than putting them on.
Yeah. Yeah. And because of the nature of the landscape there, a lot of islands, a lot of channels and bays, we don't have big waves to contend with for the most part, and with the exception of the crossing, of course. And it also means that mitigates the wind, the brunt of the big ocean wind. So tends to be a fairly nice environment to be in a lot of the time.
Could be the complimentary rum,
Actually, on that note, Toby, what's the crossing like? You hear stories, and this is a small boat.
They're all true. They're all true. So, it can be the Drake Lake or the Drake Shake, as they say. So it's really difficult to know exactly what you're going to get. Generally speaking, It's very hard to say. So from my experience, I've never been delayed on a crossing. I've never had to wait out a storm before making the crossing. Sometimes during the crossing, we might slow up the vessel or change direction just to mitigate sort of rocking and rolling with the vessel. And I have left early from the peninsula probably once, just to make sure we didn't get caught in a big storm in the middle. The crossing would typically take, so you get on the vessel in the evening, we cruise down the Beagle Channel, we all go to sleep. The following day we're at sea, then we have a night, and then we have a day. And if we've had good sailing, most of the time we'll be hitting the Shetland Islands for an evening landing on that second day. Well, I guess it's technically the third day, but two after the, so it's a full just about a full 2 days of steaming from Ushuaia to the South Shetland Islands. Yeah, so 2 nights. Yeah, but it's effectively one full sea day and then another most of a sea day. And in terms of the ship, I've been on the vessel in 12-meter swells crossing to South Georgia on numerous occasions. And, it just keeps on plugging along. So it's very much suited for that type of travel. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be more comfortable than crossing to Herta on northwest Scotland. Yeah. Yep.
Definitely. I see, Joe, you've just joined us. Do you have any questions at all? I know you're not sure if there's anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to hear from us about.
No, are you going to have a recording of tonight's?
Yes. Yeah, we have.
Sorry, I came rather late because I forgot.
Oh, that's okay. I'm just, there's a recording made that we'll share as well. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Yes, no problem.
And I'd just like to butt in and say that it's worth going anyway, just to listen to Ian's lectures.
And to hang out with you, Robbie. So.
That's right. And Tony, I can, as one of the world's great photographers, I can help you there with photography.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a laughathon.
Good.
Okay, are there any more questions at all? I will, if there's no more questions, I will wrap it up and let everyone go about their evening. But please, if there's anything at all, please jump in, and we'll be doing, if you've got any other questions that you didn't ask or still wanted to ask, please, just email us and we'll be more than happy to help.
Is there any Vegemite on board, Toby?
I'd actually carry some Vegemite over just to ensure that there is, because it can be quite difficult to obtain over there sometimes. Yeah.
So any citizen science people, info@livingocean.org.au, and we can throw that Behave program. You can download that and we'll get you into that, just so you can get familiar with it if you're interested in logging data. So there you go.
Fantastic. Oh, with that, I guess we'll say goodbye. Lovely to see some familiar faces, and we will be following up in due course. Okay, lovely, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Toby. Thanks, Ian.
Thanks very much. Bye.
Yeah, see you, Tony.
Oh,
Thanks, Toby.
Thanks, Robbie. Bye. See you.
Lost control of my mouse.
Actually, Toby,
Yes.
I've got some photos from Greenland, group photos and some photos of you and things that I've literally just downloaded in the last day on my camera. Do you want me to send some through to you?
We will be next week. I'll send out the
Okay.
the link where we can kind of
Oh.
share information and that sort of thing.
Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah.
No, all good.
Yeah.